as your husband, I want to be your hero.
Right.
I don't want you.
Absolutely.
I don't want you to see me as this negative person who's a burden to you. You know, and so the more you criticize me, the smaller I become in my mind, in your eyes. If that
Right.
makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you know, this girl, man, she used to love me. She used to celebrate me. And now she criticizes. All she sees is the wrong stuff. So it can also make you feel devalued also.
Right.
Welcome, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to In Conversation with Joel Brooks. I have my lovely wife here, Yvonne, and we
Hello.
want to continue on the topic of marriage. And there are some things she reminded me. We kind of jumped from topic to topic last time, and so we want to deal with the same topics, but maybe make a deeper dive into those, so that there will be an understanding. Because we really want to equip you to be able to be happily married. Man, there's nothing like marriage. If you're in a happy marriage, there's nothing like it. And so we want to maximize your ability to really enjoy your marriage and be fulfilled in your marriage. And so, honey, can you remember any of those topics that
Yeah,
we
talked
touched
about
on that you
quite
felt
a
we
few
needed to go
things. We
deeper
talked
into?
about knowledge, like knowing each
Well,
other,
with knowledge, yeah.
dwelling together with knowledge. Like, what does that look like in a marriage? Because I think, as you mentioned before, you start the marriage off as individuals,
Right.
but the partnership really develops over a period of time. You have a plan, you have a hope, you have a dream, you have a prayer that you want your marriage
Right.
to work.
Right.
But in time, you grow in your partnership. And what does that look like? Dwelling together in knowledge and
Yeah, Peter
understanding.
says for husbands to dwell with their wives according to knowledge, and so knowledge increases your capacity to experience pain or pleasure from something. Okay, the more you know about it, the more you can derive from it. And so there are about 4 or 5 areas that if I have the knowledge of my spouse, it really helps me relate to my spouse. Okay? One of them is how they are wired.
Right.
Okay, and knowing how they are wired is a big deal. Now, none of these things become a fixed sort of determiner of your marriage. All these things can change as you grow in Christ.
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Another one is love language. Okay, knowing how your mate communicates and receives love. Okay, and so to not know your mate's love language is to like going to France and trying to preach to people in English and then nobody understands what you're saying.
Right,
So
exactly.
it's not what you're saying. You're just not speaking the right language. You're not speaking something that they understand and can internalize. And so it's important to know your love language and how I express love. I think when you first took the test, I was telling you what your love language
Right.
was, and I was off. And it turned out to be touch.
Right.
Well, I'm not a real touchy-feely guy. And so what I've had to learn is, like, say, if we're riding in the car, for me to just reach across and put my hand on your hand is communicating love
Right.
to you in
Absolutely.
your language, because I want you to hear it. I
Right,
want you to know
right.
how I'm feeling. Communication is the basis of life. And so our lives are based on the communication that we have with each other. And so if I'm not speaking your language, at some point, there will be no basis for our relationship.
Right. That's good.
And so knowledge is a big deal. Knowing your personality type, okay, and what your values are, what's important to you. Okay, some people, space is important to them.
Right.
To other people, not having space, touch, closeness is important. And so I can violate you because I don't know your values without me even knowing it. I remember I'm the kind that I would walk past your desk if we're working together and grab a bag of potato chips. If you have a bag of potato chips there, grab some and pour some out in my hand. I won't reach
big
in.
deal.
Okay, but
a
I
big
was
deal.
doing that with one of our employees, and that was a real major transgression. I was crossing a big line by doing that, and I'm thinking I'm reaching out, being friendly, and being personable to them, and they were actually like and so knowing values is a big deal. So knowing the wiring, knowing the love language, knowing the personality type, knowing a person's values, all those things are really important as we relate to one another, as we respect one another and respect what's important to one another. I think sometimes there's this there's this concept that if the person is right for me, they should already know these things. They should
Right.
come with this knowledge, which is just a really bad assumption, even down to the lovemaking. Nobody knows until you tell them.
Right. Absolutely.
Play the hot and cold game,
Right.
okay? If that makes sense, you know.
Absolutely.
And so I don't know if you don't tell me. You can't assume somebody should know.
Right. And speaking of not assuming that people should know, there are times when you don't know yourself.
Okay.
You know where you fall into that. You know, it's
Right.
knowing yourself at different stages in your own life.
Self-awareness. Yeah.
It's like a discovery. You know,
Right.
you learn that, okay, I used to like that, but now I don't like that anymore. You know, I used to not require, so much alone time. Now I thrive off it. I love it. So I think we change as people too. And so
Absolutely,
that
yeah.
communication that you talked about,
Yeah.
is so important. I think that's one of the main reasons why relationships fail. You're not communicating. And so I think it's understanding each other and understanding yourself, was really important, because I never really saw myself as an introvert at all. I thought I was like the extreme opposite, but I'm really kind of like right on the line.
Yeah.
And when I go back
It's
to
a
think about,
continuum, yeah.
right, I'm on the line. I can stand in both worlds. I have my feet on each side. And I remember going back as a little girl and saying, yeah, you were. I used to spend all my time in the bathroom.
'Cause your family was-
Children,
a lot of
right?
you, yeah.
5 children, my mom and dad. And so it got to the point where they call that my office.
Right.
But you don't realize that what you value yourself. And so I think it's like paying attention to yourself too, so that you can properly communicate. Because I think what frustrates relationships is when you can't articulate yourself, what you like, but what you currently are experiencing, you're not really happy with. And so I think knowing yourself, also is really important. And then having the courage, to articulate that. And courage may seem like a strong word, but just being comfortable enough with your mate to be able to say, "Hey, this is how I am." Let's understand each other.
Right.
You know.
I believe there's obedience is a real big deal with Christians, obeying God. And I believe there's a dimension of obeying your design. In other words, cooperating with the way God made you.
Right.
And me as your husband allowing you to cooperate with the way God made you. Okay, and not insisting that you become somebody else.
Right.
And I think a lot of times, especially with pastors' wives, that role model is everybody already knows what you're supposed to be doing.
Right.
Kind of
What you're
falls
supposed to
on
be
you.
good at. This
Yeah,
has to
what
be
you're supposed
you.
to be good at. Yeah, and so.
Right.
And so I think we'll fall in that, but that knowledge piece will help us with that. And then once we know, then respecting the knowledge, but at the same time allowing a person to grow into who God is making them.
Right.
So we don't set those things in stone. We just
Right.
use them as guides on how to relate to one another.
You talked a lot. We talked about grace the last time also, and that being something that really kind of is lacking in marriages that are failing.
Right.
How does grace and knowledge kind of work together?
Well, my knowledge of you helps explain you, as it were. Okay. I think when we get over into judging one another, which the Bible tells us not to do,
right.
I mean, he warns us. It's real clear. Judge
Right.
not,
Right.
lest you be judged. Okay. When I judge you, I'm ascribing intent and motives to your behavior, but to how you are when when actually you just may be tired.
Right.
You may be
Right.
low on energy, okay, because I've had you around people all day. I've had you in a
Right.
situation that wasn't comfortable for you all day. And so I'm thinking, well, man, come on. Well, I need you to come out here and be part of what's going on. And you're like, man, I'm dying.
I need a break.
I need a break. I need to go
Right.
someplace and take some deep breaths, And so so having some knowledge about those things helps us give grace for where a person might be.
But what's the judgment in that? Like if the partner that maybe the spouse is saying, "Hey, I need some time. I need some grace," and so we got all these people out here we have to entertain.
Yeah.
What's the judgment that sometimes comes?
Well,
in
the
situations
judgment
like
is
that?
when I take it personal
Right.
and I charge it to your heart
Right.
and not to your design.
Right.
Well, you don't want to come out here. You don't want to help me.
You don't care about me.
You don't care about me. You don't want to
Exactly.
support me.
Right.
When you actually just tired.
Right.
You don't want to support me. You don't want to help me. And so what I'll do is I'll I'll brand you, I'll put a name on you, and over a period of time, names become expectation.
Right.
In other words, I'll live up to what you name me.
Right.
And so there's an expectation that comes with a name.
On both sides.
On both
sides,
yes.
'Cause I think it's you're fearful to not let your partner feel this way about you because you know that it's not the case.
Right.
But they're constantly saying this is who you are. You don't care. Well, now there's not enough that you can do to show that you care. And so it kind of drains both partners, when you're in that kind of situation where you're judging each other.
Yeah, and it sets up an expectation. And so now, when we approach a situation, because I've judged you concerning that situation, now you feel that weight.
Right.
And now, rather than just being yourself, you go into performance mode.
Right. Trying not to be what you called me.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
And that seems fake.
Yeah.
So now people are saying, man, you don't seem real.
Right.
And you're not, because you're trying to be somebody who, other than what God made you to be, in order to get people to accept you. And so it's a big deal that we accept people as they are, allowing them to grow and change from that into other person. We don't judge them. We don't cast them into their present role.
Right.
Okay. We have to know the difference between a photograph and a movie.
Right, that's good.
And so I don't want to take one frame of your life and frame your life with that, and not realize that things are changing, that you're growing, and that you're going to be better in the future. So.
Right. What about judging and name calling? Because, the argument side, people get into the argument and calling each other names.
Yeah.
And, like I call you, we call each other names in this playing and adjusting all the time, but somebody's a serious argument and you get to name calling.
Right.
Those are some things in reference to judgment. Is that tied to judgment? Or is that
it's
just
tied to judgment.
immaturity and anger?
Well, what happens if I'm calling you a name, I'm ultimately trying to control you by hurting you.
Yeah, that's good.
And so it's meant to inflict hurt, which inhibits love.
Right.
There's no way I'm going to call you a name and you love me more.
Right, absolutely.
Unless you're just really unhealthy.
Right, absolutely.
And so
pushes you away, right?
To call a person a name is to name them. Okay, is to cast them in a certain light. And if it's true, it's negative, it's bad, and so we shouldn't do it. Okay.
What do you think are the warning signs of a marriage or relationship that's on the way to failure, or maybe on the way to divorce?
Yeah, we referenced a book last time by John Gottman.
Yeah.
On the 7 principles of marriage, and in their studies, they found some things, some tells, as you would put it, for marriages that are not going to make it, and they found this to be correct about 95% of the time. Okay, one of those was defensiveness. Okay, in other words, if you tell me, Joe, you left your shoes out. Okay, well, hey, you left your coat off. You dropped your coat off in the living room when you came in, and you didn't move it. And so what I do is I try to negate or nullify what you're saying about me by bringing an accusation against you.
Well, why do we feel unsafe? I guess, why do we feel unsafe to be wrong in a relationship? Because people do that all the time.
I believe that defensiveness is an immaturity piece.
Right.
I won't take responsibility for what you brought to my attention and just say, just realize and admit it. Yeah, okay, I did something wrong. And it's not the end of the world.
Right.
I ask for forgiveness and then we move on. But that takes maturity. That takes a responsible person, okay? It's much easier if I'm immature to bring up something that you did. And go into my bag of offenses that I've been keeping track of so I can use as a weapon against you in the future.
Right.
So I go into that, and then I become defensive. So when two people can't talk and they tend to talk around subjects rather than actually dealing with the subject, that's a sign. I believe, and that bleeds over into criticism.
Right, I was going to ask you about criticism.
Okay,
yeah.
So when I begin to criticize you, to speak negatively about you, okay, that's a sign that I'm getting fed up with you, if that makes sense. That I'm I'm at the point now of it's now personal. It's now an issue that has come between us, and so criticism is a really bad sign.
That's kind of when you hear you always, you never.
Yep.
You
Yep,
never do
absolutely.
this. You always do that.
Yes, and that's related to judgment also, I think.
Yeah.
And so, so when I say you always do something or you always, that means, I've locked you in.
Right.
I've locked you into something, and it's going to be hard for you to escape my criticism.
Right. Why is it so harmful? I know you talked a little
Because
bit.
it's negative. It eats away at the relationship. It eats away at the fiber of the relationship. In other words, as your husband, I want to be your hero.
Right.
I don't want you to see me as this negative person who's a burden to you. And so the more you criticize me, the smaller I become in my mind, in your eyes, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this girl, man, she used to love me. She used to celebrate me. And now she criticizes. All she sees is the wrong stuff. So it can also make you feel devalued also.
Right. How do you, as a couple, come out of that? So I don't think most people want to be there because it's such a painful place. But if I don't know how to come out of criticism, it's like you're going to keep repeating the habit of it.
Well, I mentioned the whole idea of projection the last time. The reason I blame you is because I really feel like if you were to change, things would be better, if that makes sense. So I'm actually, criticism is a subtle, not so subtle way of control. So I think the marriage would be better if you change, which means I believe you're the problem.
Right.
Okay? And so I'm judging you. I'm ascribing this thing that, you could be better if you wanted to.
Right.
Because if I criticize you, it means that you could have done the right thing. And so I'm not taking into account your wiring. I'm not taking into account your history, what you've been through.
Right.
Okay? All those things. I'm not taking any of those things into account. I'm just kind of naming you and locking you into something the way I see you.
Right, and I was thinking about that just prior to you saying it. Criticism and past hurts, and so a lot of times we bring our past hurts into marriage,
right? And
so which causes us to be more critical of our current mate.
Yep.
So you got to know also when you're bringing, a past situation into a relationship, which is why you're being so critical.
Absolutely, and I think it's fair as a mate to take your mate's history into consideration. In other words, I know what you've been through, and so I know what may be a sore spot with you. And as a result, I intentionally avoid sore spots. I avoid areas that you may still be getting healed in, and try not to remind you of your past, if that makes sense.
Right, that's good. Let's talk about defensiveness.
Defensiveness.
Okay, it feels like self-protection,
Yeah.
And so, but it often backfires. Why do people become defensive, and how can they shift to vulnerability?
Okay. Well, you become defensive because you don't want to accept the pain of conviction of what you've done wrong. Okay, conviction is an emotional type of pain that's healthy, because conviction shows me the distance from where I am and where I need to be. Okay, and so when I tell you something that you've done wrong, it brings with it a conviction.
Right.
Now, to remove that pain in an artificial way, you try to transfer it back to me and tell me something that I did wrong.
Right.
So it's an attempt to evade responsibility, if that makes sense. And so it becomes a tit for tat kind of thing. And I'm doing it because I don't want to be affected by what you're saying. So that's where the lack of vulnerability comes in. If I'm vulnerable, I'm open, and I'm willing to allow what you're saying to change me.
Right.
See, one of the things that we miss in marriage relationships is the transformational aspect of marriage. Okay, marriage is meant to make me better.
Right.
Okay, sometimes people just talk about the transactional part of marriage. Is the man going to provide? What do you bring to the table?
Right.
When you hear people have conversations like the table conversations,
absolutely,
that's transactional marriage. Okay, what is even more important is who I become with you. Okay, and so I'm not going to change if I'm not vulnerable, if I don't allow myself to be affected by what you're saying to me, if I'm defensive. And so another word, a Bible word for defensiveness would be a hard heart. Okay? I develop a hard heart because I don't want you in there.
Right.
Okay. Now the problem is that you only have one heart, and if it's hard to people, it's also hard to God.
Right. Is that the hard-heartedness a sign of pain? Again, because why?
It
how
could be
would
a
you,
result of pain.
Yes.
It could be, but it's a decision.
a past pain, right?
It's a decision to not be effective. It be affected by my environment. I develop this stiffness, this invulnerability, so that I'm not affected by what people say and do.
Right.
I have a hard heart, but God insists that you change.
Right.
So you have to remain vulnerable to Him, soft-hearted to Him.
So is that how you spiral out of that? Because it can become habitual.
Yeah.
You know, when you habitually
And it can
do
lead
the
to
wrong
sin.
thing. Absolutely.
Because a hard heart can't hear and can't feel conviction.
Right.
And so it leads to what Bible and King James call licentiousness, to where I'll find myself doing stuff that I would never have allowed myself to do, because now my heart is hard, and now God can't really get to me. I can't sense conviction.
Right.
See, people understand conviction is painful, but it's healthy.
Right.
And it's proof that you're born again. The fact that you can sense conviction is proof of the new birth, because things that are not supposed to be right don't sit well with you, and you're convicted of it. So that's proof that I'm in touch with God and that God can pull me in. Conviction should always pull me closer to God. Condemnation sends me away from God. That makes sense.
Yeah, we've identified some of these issues. A couple who's going through that and say, "Hey, we're defensive to each other. Like, how do they stop? What are some things that you feel like they should do, as individuals and as a couple?"
Well, first of all, let your guard down. Allow a person to speak into your life,
right?
Because they're with you. They see it. Okay. Everybody has
safety.
Everybody has blind spots.
Yeah.
Okay. And so the only way you're protected from a blind spot is if you listen to somebody. Okay. And so we have to first let our guard down, and then the person, Bible says when you go to correct somebody in Galatians, do it in a spirit of gentleness. Okay. So the way I tell you about yourself is a big deal too. So we want to be gentle with one another. It's hard to hear something negative about yourself, much less hearing it and with a sharpness to it.
Right,
It's going to be
absolutely.
hard to receive. Okay, and so I think on both parts we have to be gentle with our correction. The Bible says the wisdom of God is easily entreated. In other words, wisdom from God doesn't have to be rough and harsh. It's easily ministered.
Right.
Okay. And so if I'm actually giving you the wisdom from above, it shouldn't be a harsh, offensive kind of thing, if that makes sense.
Right.
And so you have to open. I think opening our hearts is a big deal.
And I think sometimes even seeking outside help
Oh
would
man,
be
yeah.
great, because if you're associating if you're being this way because of your own past hurts,
Yeah.
you may need a mediator at the table to
Right.
say, to help you hear each other.
Right.
It's almost like you have to develop your language and your listening skills
Yeah.
together again with your mate.
Yeah.
And just kind of read.
Professional help is a
more.
big deal. You want to make sure that they have the same values that you have.
Right.
You want to make sure they're
Absolutely.
Christians and won't tell you, hey man, who are you guys fooling? Let's throw this away. Let's get rid of this.
Right.
So you want a person who values covenant, who values marriage, who's helping you. But I really advise people to get help, whether it's your pastor, the ministers at your church, or professional help. And sometimes we really need to go to somebody who's been trained to
Right.
recognize what's going on
Right.
and then confront us with it.
Absolutely. Let's talk about another danger sign, contempt.
Yeah.
You know, contempt is like, they say it's next level, eye rolling, sarcasm, disgust. Why is this considered one of the most dangerous behaviors in a relationship?
Because it indicates that I've given up. It indicates judgment. Okay, if I go to say something and you roll your eyes, that means that you're not even going to accept it.
Not hearing.
You're not
Right.
hearing. It's like, oh, here he goes again.
Right.
Here's some more promises.
Right.
And so the eye rolling is a real sign. The contempt is a real sign of judgment. That you've reached a conclusion about me, that my behavior can't change. That I you put me into prison, and I won't ever get out.
Yeah, that's a good way to put
as
it.
long as we're relating, you're going to see me in that way. And so contempt is a real sign that the marriage is in deep trouble.
Wow. So how do you get out of that? I guess recognizing
Yeah.
that you're there.
Well,
would
I
be the
mean,
first sign.
Every answer is in Jesus. Okay, and so I'm not supposed to judge.
Right.
And Bible says that love believes all things. So the amazing prophet, Tina Turner's husband, Ike.
Oh, Ike Turner.
It's like Ike told Tina about the girl that had just tried to kill herself. His girlfriend.
Right.
He said she did the worst thing you could ever do. She quit believing in me. And so not to follow him.
Right.
But I think he had a point there. Is that when we stop believing in people, we take away the spiritual pressure on them to grow.
Very good.
And we cast them in their present state. Okay, and we judge them. That's what judging somebody is. Okay, is we make their present state permanent in our mind, and we don't see them coming out of it. And so the Bible says, "Love believes all things.
Yes.
Love hopes all things." And so if I love you, I believe that God is still involved with your life and can bring you into what He's calling you to. Okay, so love never gives up on people.
Right.
Okay, and that's when contempt is a sign that you've given up.
Given up.
Here he goes again.
Wow. Do you find?
Honey, I think I'm gonna start exercising, lose weight. Oh, here we go again.
Right.
You quit believing in them.
Do you think contempt and infidelity are related? Because that's another huge indicator that your marriage is in serious trouble.
Yeah, I think because if you've given up on your marriage ever being better and the person
Right.
ever changing, that could definitely open the door to other things. See, we have to understand the impact of a new affection.
Yes, good. Explain that some more.
Well, the impact of a new affection brings with it a chemical high, the endorphins. Okay, when you fall in love with a new person,
Right.
it makes you high, it makes you optimistic. Okay, it affects you. You change your pattern, you change your ways. Okay, many people who are having affairs all of a sudden start excising and
Right.
start
Looking better.
getting their hygiene
Dressing.
better. You know what I'm saying? You don't smell like a goat all the time now. because you're trying to impress somebody.
Right.
See, when you fall in love, you want to impress people. Okay, and so what we need to know is that how can I say it? I don't need a new meal every day.
Right.
I don't need you to come up with something brand new. I just need it fresh.
Yeah, there you go.
And so what we have to understand about marriage is meant to be fresh. And the only way it can stay fresh is if we renew it.
That's great.
Okay? And so, but a lazy person, an immature person, rather than put the work in to renew the love with the present mate, they're just falling in love with somebody brand new, which is easy.
Right.
Because it's brand new. I don't have history with them. I don't have any of the walls built between us. And so, everything feels fresh and new when really it's sin.
Right.
It's not healthy, okay? And it's going to eventually flame out.
Right.
Because rebound relationships are intense. But the intensity, you can't sustain it.
that.
You can't sustain it. So it flames out. The next thing you know, it's bittersweet.
Right. You on to the next one. Yeah.
I'm connected. I'm joined at the heart with this person that I'm not legally supposed to be with.
Right.
And so now I got to end something. Now I've got to, and so and then you have guys and women too who go from person to person. All they can handle is brand new love.
Wow. And maturity.
Right, because they don't have the maturity to actually do what's necessary to renew love, to break the pattern, okay, to do by intention what came natural
Right.
when the love was brand new. Okay, so what does brand new love do? It changes my values, my priorities. You and I, when we fell in love, we start talking every day.
Right. Long distance.
Long distance. If somebody told us, I want you to do this
was
2 or 3
before-
hours.
Before all the FaceTime.
Yeah,
Didn't
didn't have
any of
all that stuff.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, send
I
me a
didn't
picture.
even know if you were cute or not. I didn't know because people can send you dialed up pictures,
Right.
you know. And so, but we fell in love, and it changed our pattern, changed everything. So
Right.
your kids were wondering, who is this guy you talking to on the phone every night? My kids were wondering. And so, because they noticed a change in pattern.
Patterns, right.
Well, when you're trying to renew love, you just change your pattern on purpose.
Right.
Okay, and you spend time together, you talk, you communicate.
To say in a marriage, one of the ways to get out of the rut is to change your pattern.
Change your pattern.
Go back to your first love.
Go back to your first love. That's what Revelation says.
Do. Right.
Go back to your first love. Do what you did when you first fell in love.
Right.
And so, time together, making each other a priority, changing your pattern, getting a revelation of one another, seeing something.
Right.
You fell in love because you saw something that you hadn't seen before.
Right.
And so you got to get back and get another revelation. And that's in any relationship, your marriage relationship with God, relationship with your career. Sometimes you have to pull back and take another look at something, and you don't need something new. You just need fresh eyes.
Yeah, that's good.
You just need a fresh way of seeing an old thing in order to renew it in your heart, if that makes sense.
Right, the old thing. Okay.
Well, that wasn't the most positive way to say that. But I was talking about the marriage, not the person.
I know.
Yeah.
Hey, old is good. It's seasoned.
It's seasoned.
Yeah,
it's deep.
It's deep.
Renewed love is deep.
Yeah.
Renewed love has been through some stuff.
Fresh love is like grass with no roots.
Yeah, right.
So
And it flames out. It's not. There's something about deep love that's really rich.
Really good. Yeah.
And that old couple sitting on the porch that can finish each other's sentences.
Yeah.
You know, and say, "I'm gonna bring you a cake." He don't need no cake.
Right.
You know, they just know each other.
Just
man.
content being in the room together.
Yeah. And so
cool.
So that's your goal is renewed love.
Yeah.
And it goes deep.
Yes.
And it roots you. Relationships, having deep relationships is considered one of the top 5 things for health. And I just heard that recently. Like there's sleep, there's hydration, there's diet, there's exercise, and then there's relationships.
Wow.
You know, that people who live a long time have good relationships, rich relationships. I think it's been proven that single guys don't live as long as married guys, you know. And married women live longer than married men. We got to figure that one out.
Right.
We got to see what's going on there.
Right.
But we'll work it out, right?
Well, it's been great talking to you, Joel Brooks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yvonne Brooks, it's good talking to you, too.
Love you.
Love you, too. God bless you. God bless you all. You guys have a good one, okay?
If you have any questions, you know, for Joel Brooks, just put them in the feed and we'll
deal with them.
Address them.
We'll make a podcast out of your question. Yeah.
Cool.
All right.